What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. The YouTube is good to us. J.A., John Anderson, Trevor Thomas. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, I listen to my podcast in Connecticut.
Good. Appreciate that.
Sometimes in flights to God knows where, like Baton Rouge or wherever else I may be, Austin, Texas, and other places unknown.
And you clearly have time when you travel because you get delayed more than anybody I've ever met in my entire life.
Do have some time between flights on occasion, unscheduled time. So.
Yeah, listen to us on the podcast side. Watch us on YouTube and all the other social channels. Would you subscribe, please? Maybe you too. Like maybe you need to subscribe. I doubt you even have a YouTube thing. Anyway, moving on. All right. Yes. So other stuff that's good to us is Packers content. We cover all of Wisconsin.
Yep.
Everyone, everything. As long as you have a tie to the state and can tell us a good story, right? And today, more Packers stuff. This is unique. This is the first time where we made contact with someone who we try to book and say, hey, what does next week, Tuesday or Wednesday look like? Yeah. And you call me and say, how about tonight?
How about the guy is free. He's ready to go. And this is good because now these are where I'm trying to broaden your horizons. I know you love the Packers. I know you have a great sense of some of the history of the great years, but sometimes in the lean years, there were people of note. There were people of interest that you should know about. And today's guest, Paul Coffman, the great tight end of the Packers of the late 70s and early 80s, which were not a great time, but he was a great player on those teams. And in that time, NFL-wise, made some Pro Bowls. He's kind enough to join us. It's great. We've got some connections. His son, Chase Coffman, went to school at the University of Missouri. That's where he matriculated, did his book learning, was a really, really great tight end for the Tigers, ended up in the NFL. So I just kind of did a little Mizzou connection to the little Green Bay connection, and lo and behold, Paul's like, hey, I'm coming off the golf course. How about tonight?
How about tonight? Crazy.
I crammed. We've got tonight. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, this is like the 82% connection. Like 82% of our guests here on Inside Wisconsin have a Missouri connection. This is another one. He was great. Paul Coffman, Packer, greatest tight end ever. You'll hear it. Paul Coffman on the Inside Wisconsin show. A lot. Look, you'll see his arm. Let's get to Paul.
The Inside Wisconsin show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. J.A., I think you know this. That is the greatest tight end in Green Bay Packers history. True. That's Paul Coffman here on the Inside Wisconsin show. What's up, Paul? Thanks for being here, man.
You know, there's times when I'll see Packer people and I'll ask them, I go, now, who is the best tight end in Green Bay Packer history? They'll go, well, I don't know, Ron Kramer or Mark Chimera. I said, the guy that caught more passes for more touchdowns and more yards than any other tight end in Packer history. Oh, I go, it's me. They go, you don't look like a tight end. I go, what do tight ends look like? You know, so.
Well, wasn't that part of the problem when you first got there? Is you didn't look like a tight end?
Well, in college,
too skinny and too small, and didn't look like a tight end.
Yeah, I didn't even get a scholarship to college. I had to walk on at Kansas State when we were arguably the worst college football program in the United States. So, I was the Rudy that actually made it.
Yeah.
So before we get you to Green Bay, then take me from some rural Kansas rail town to getting into college and playing D1 ball there in Manhattan.
Well, actually, it was a wheat town.
Okay.
You know, my dad was a wheat farmer, and he was also a school teacher. And I would see him get up in the morning and get out on the tractor at 5 and plow till 7:30, come home, put his suit on, teach biology, chemistry, and physics, go back out on the field after school and, work the field until dark. And I tell people I had the best combination of hard work and education in that small town. And in 7th grade, I actually hurt my elbow. And when you grow up in a town of 500 people, your doctor's also your veterinarian. So I got my right elbow operated on. They put it in a cast for 3 months. They cut off the cast and send me home. I never had any rehab. So this arm only straightens this far.
Oh, man.
happened in 7th grade. You probably can't see, but there's
we can see it.
Scar right there. There's actually another one on this side right here. And the doctor said, you'll be fine as long as you don't play football. And Doc, I got to play football. So they went to a place that made prosthetic legs and stuff. And they made me like a cast type thing. And I wore that in high school. And I was a fullback and outside linebacker. So I could grab the ball. I could hit people and, grab and tackle. And got some offers for some junior colleges, actually signed with Coffeyville Junior College. And then we had an oil man in Chase, Kansas, my hometown, and he gave money to K-State. So he talked them into bringing me up for a weekend, like a recruiting weekend. And the coach was Vince Gibson. He was a Southern guy. And after my weekend, it's like, man, I want to come to K-State. My grandpa went there. My dad went there. It's an agricultural school. And he goes, Paul Coffman. He said, you're going to be a fine, fine ball player here at Kansas State University. He said, but they just one thing wrong, Paul. He said, they don't give away all my scholarships. I said, well, Coach Gibson, I said, maybe I'll go to junior college. I'll get some size, some experience, and then I'll come up here. He said, no. He said, we'll run off some boys during two-a-days. He said, you'll get yourself a scholarship in no time. I was too naive to really realize what that meant. So as a walk-on, basically you're the dummy for the guys that are actually going to play on Saturday. I ran Missouri's plays. I ran Oklahoma State's plays, Oklahoma, Nebraska. And if I was successful, the guy across from me got chewed out, and then we had to run the play again, and this time he knew it was coming. So, there's a lot of times when I thought about walking off. And actually on game day, they had a place for me. I didn't even get to suit up on home games, and they had a place for me up by the band. I'd told girls on campus I was on the football team. Then they'd see me sitting up by the band, kind of ruined my story. But at the end of the season, Coach Gibson called me in, said they were going to give me a scholarship. Went home over Christmas, told my folks. Hutchinson, Kansas is kind of a big city, not too far from us. Had a paper and picked up the Hutch paper one day, and I read that Coach Gibson got fired. So when I came back at the end of Christmas break, nobody knew anything about my scholarship. So had to go through spring ball, finally earned a scholarship. And like I say, we were not a good team. We almost killed the horses on the Sooner Schooner one year. They were taking that wagon around and around the field. They scored 63 points, and I think we got a field goal at the end, 63-3. But it gave me an opportunity to play. I was a tight end. I weighed 212 pounds, and I was 6'3", and just made the most of my opportunity. And the only reason I even got a tryout in Green Bay, and this was in the time before the combine, coaches would come to the universities and work out the players they thought were draftable. We only had one guy on our team that was draftable. He was a middle linebacker, and of course the defense was on the field so much. He made a tackle. He was the all-time leading tackler at K-State, might even still be. And so linebacker coaches would come to work out my friend Gary Spaney. I would ask for a tryout. They would run me through the drills. They would time me in the 40. The day Green Bay came, it was raining, so we went in the field house. And, we were on a basketball court, and, Gary would do his drops, and the coach would motion right, left, and he would turn his hips and shoulders. And then he'd tell me, well, run 10 yards and out. And he would throw the ball, and he was a linebacker coach, John Meyer. The ball would just flutter in the air. It'd be about 3 rolls up in the bleachers, and I would dive and crash into the bleachers and catch the ball. And the story I got is they were sitting in a meeting before minicamp, and Coach Bart Starr said, we only have 2 tight ends coming to minicamp. Said, did any of you guys work out any tight ends? Said, we're gonna kill our starter, Rich McGeorge. This was in the day there's no off-season programs. We had ashtrays on every locker probably half the team smoked. And so what they would do is bring in players just to make the lines long so the veteran players could work their way into shape. So John Meyer said, yeah, he said, I worked this kid at Kansas State, said, he won't make the team, but he won't embarrass us. So they called me up. They offered me $24,000 to sign. And no, they offered me a $1,000 signing bonus and a $24,000 contract my first year, $30,000 my second. Well, Denver had called me up and wanted me to come out there and play linebacker. They had Randy Gradishire, Thomas Jackson, Bo Swinson. I said, Coach, you don't need any linebackers. He said, yeah, but we need backups. We want somebody to play special teams. And so they were going to offer me $2,000 to sign. And so I told the guy in Green Bay, I said, look, I'm going to have $2,500 to sign. And the phone went completely silent. I'm thinking, oh, crap, I've screwed this up big time. He goes, we'll give you $1,500. I said, okay, real quick, because I didn't want to piss him off. So $1,500, $24,000 my first year, $30,000 my second, loaded everything I owned into a 1967 Chevrolet Impala, drove to Green Bay to make the team. Every day I'd come down from the dormitory at St. Norbert's and just get out what I needed for that day because I was afraid if I got cut, I'd have to load up my car and drive back to Kansas and finish my schooling. And I'd actually gained up to 217 pounds, so I was huge. And during two-a-days, I lost back down to 212. So I go in the weight room and I put on some double X large shorts and I took a 5-pound weight stuck in my jock, and I'd weigh in and out of practice with that 5-pound weight in my jock just so they wouldn't cut me.
Okay, that's a great place to go. Holy buckets, man. What a story. You walked on in high school. You walked on at K-State. You walked on in Green Bay. I think it all worked out for you, Paul.
The thing is, I was really too naive to realize I didn't have a chance. Really. I mean, I didn't realize they weren't counting on me to make the team. I thought, wow, they're looking at me, I got to do everything I can to impress the coaches. And I was in the right place at the right time. I mean, I would have been lost in Chicago, New York, LA. Sure. Bart Starr's my head coach. I mean, there's a proverb in the Bible that says the power of life and death are in the tongue. You can encourage people with your words or you can discourage them. Bart would get on you, but he would do things like say, you're better than that. I expect more out of you than that. And I mean, if Bart Starr tells you he expects more out of him, it's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. What can I do? What do I need to do? And again, looking back at the hard work and education, I could learn my plays and not make any mental mistakes. Well, that was big on Bart's list. I mean, he did not tolerate mental mistakes.
Right.
And hard work. Okay, I ran track in high school. I was a quarter miler. I could run forever. So I could win every sprint after practice. I could win the gassers. I could run downfield after James Lofton caught a pass and block defensive backs. It's like, okay, I'm not going to look at what I don't have. I'm going to look at what I do have, and I'm going to make the most of it. And I'm going to win every sprint. So
you mentioned it there for a second that Green Bay was the best place you could have landed coming from a small town in Western Kansas. What was that adaptation like, though? Because clearly Green Bay was a little bit bigger, but it was back in the 70s. What was that move like for you, knowing, geez, I'm going to try to make the team? I packed up all of my stuff. I moved, probably a 14-ish hour drive from there. What was that like?
Yeah. And then again, Green Bay was the perfect place. And not only the town, but Lou Carpenter was my position coach. I got to sit by Lynn Dickey in the meetings. And Lynn played at Kansas State. I knew some people that knew him. And he would, it was all I could do to learn my plays, what I did on a certain play. Well, Lynn would explain to me why I was doing it. He goes, you're running this crossing route because we're trying to pull the linebackers up because the wide receiver, the Z receiver to your right is running in behind you. So if these linebackers move up to cover you, then I can hit him. Now, if the free safety moves up, we got James Lofton running the post behind him. And that's where I'm going. So Lynn would explain to me what the pass routes were actually trying to accomplish. and what his reads were. So I knew when I had a little more time to get open, I knew if it was man or zone, what he was reading, whether he was reading outside in or inside out. And it just helped me so much. Rich McGeorge was the same way, the starting tight end. He would explain to me different things. And, I just feel like, watching James Lofton run pass routes and set people up and change his speed and shake his head and move his shoulders. And it's like, okay, I'm going to try that. And, so like I say, I was blessed. It was the perfect storm for me. I was kind of a mutter. I tell people I had deceptive speed. I was slower than what I looked. But, I was, and then, Len gets hurt and Dave Whitehurst is the quarterback.
Yep.
Well, Dave was, he was only in his second year, and he goes, I got these guys running these routes 20, 30 yards down the field, and I got a tight end that's 8 yards over the middle on a curl route. It's like anytime, he would get in trouble, he would just dump the ball to me. In my second year, when I finally became the starter, I caught 56 passes, which at that time was a Packer record for the season, because David and I, we were both single. We actually roomed together. And when he would get in trouble, he would look to, hey, I'm going to dump it off to this guy. We got 8-10 yards here. And I couldn't outrun anybody. So I'd just run straight up the field, try to run over as many people as I could. And I think Packer fans appreciated that. I was what they might call a mudder, and in the snow and the mud, it brought everybody down to my speed. And so I'd just turn, boom, go upfield, see if I could run over a few people and make that first down.
So listen, you've just gone through my whole life history here in one way. Like literally 2 nights ago, I was at dinner. And we have friends, and their son is going to Elon. And somebody goes, "Do you know anybody who ever went to Elon?" I said, "Well, Rich McGeorge." And they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "He was the Packers' #1 pick. Don't worry about it. He was a tight end." And I had to move on. And Lou Carpenter, I went to school with his daughter Becky, who produced a wonderful documentary on Lou and
right.
his later years with stuff. And so it's like all this you're telling me is amazing. So you talked about how you were on some teams that were close, but you always played into a full, like the last 30 years, people have been spoiled. Packers win all the time.
Oh yeah.
But even in the 70s, people showed up all the time, right? You were there. You still had the same adulation, it seemed to me, the same interest, the same crowds in the 70s and early 80s that you have here in 2022.
Packer fans are, I live here in Kansas City. I go to the Chiefs game. Chiefs are winning. They're winning Super Bowls. They're sold out. People say, "Oh, Chiefs fans are great. They're great." They're great if you're winning. Now, Packer fans have an unconditional love for their team. The people in Green Bay, when they sold the stock, there's a feeling of ownership. And the state of Wisconsin, I probably come to the state of Wisconsin 7-8 times a year for different fundraisers. And, I had a big afro when I played, and I have no hair now. And people look at me and go, "Yeah, nice haircut there."
Yeah, thanks, you too.
People look at me and go, "Paul Coffman." I'm like, "How do you recognize me?" "Oh, when I was 15 years old, I had number 82 jersey." I have people, 50-year-old, 55-year-old men saying, "You rode my bike through the parking lot down to practice one day." I'm like, how do you, just that attitude of the Packer fans. I never played in front of a crowd that wasn't sold out. And I mentioned earlier that the only one I played that wasn't at full capacity was that snow game against Tampa. And that's because I think 41 and 43 Highway were both snowed in. We got 10 inches of snow the morning before the game, and then it snowed during the game too. But that was the only one that wasn't packed, but every game was sold out. And we only made the playoffs once.
When you look at the organization you came into in 1978 and the NFL in 1978, and since you have sons that played, your Chase played in the NFL, your oldest son, but you see what it is now. You go to the Chiefs games. Like, how different is the league and organizations from what you saw in '78 when you first got your taste of pro ball to what you see on Sundays now? Because it's got to just be.
Oh, it's bigger than life. I mean, ESPN, you know, Sports Center, you know, all the hype. You know, we used to just hope that we could make Monday night highlights. At the Monday night game, it was always the big deal is they would show highlights at halftime of the Monday night game. And that was about all the highlights that you would ever see league wide. And now, I mean, boy, you know, every channel wants to show NFL highlights. And it's just bigger than life. You know, the NFL properties is involved with all the licensing and logos and T-shirts and hats. You know, it rarely would even see a jersey, you know, back in the late 70s that somebody would have. It was sometimes kind of a homemade one that they would have in the stands. But boy, it's just grown. And, you know, they're doing a lot more for the players too, the Players Association. You know, they've gone back, and guys who've been in the league for 3 years, they're now grandfathered into, you know, the retirement. We have 3 joint replacements. I've taken advantage of that. I got a new shoulder and a new hip, and I'll probably be experiencing a new knee here before long. But
maybe an elbow. I don't know. Maybe an elbow.
I don't know if they can do. That's kind of my signature anymore, is the crooked elbows. You know, it probably doesn't help my golf game. Anytime I take lessons, the guy goes, "Well, straighten out your arms." I go, "I can't." So, you know.
But even beyond that, right? Like teams now that they're like 22 coaches. Did you have a tight ends coach, let alone an assistant tight ends coach?
Lou Carpenter coached wide receivers and tight ends. Ernie McMillan coached the offensive line. And then Bill Meyer. Bill Meyer was a coach at Missouri for a while, under Woody Woodenhofer. They brought in Bill Meyer to kind of do – now they got, you know, like a center and guard coach, a tackle coach, a tight end coach, a wide receiver coach, quarterback coach, running back coach, you know, an inside safeties coach, and out, you know, corners coach, inside linebacker coach, outside line. You know, I mean, it's
all
just,
of them.
It's crazy. It really is. You know,
but
I look back at our teams, and I heard, I'm not going to mention his name, but an ex-Packer front office person one time refer to the late 70s and early 80s as the years of futility and mediocrity. And I almost stood up and called him right in the middle of this event. I'm going, you know what? It seemed like at the time we weren't run by football people. I don't believe they put Bart Starr in position to succeed. We had Ted Hendricks, outside linebacker. We let him go to the Raiders for, I think he wanted $100,000. You let Mike Butler go to the USFL. You draft somebody like Rich Campbell. You draft somebody like Bruce Clark, who told you, I am not going to Green Bay and playing nose guard.
I'm going to
go to Canada. I mean, who skips the NFL to go to Canada? You know, then Bruce Clark comes back and plays defensive end for the New Orleans Saints. Actually, I was a teammate with him in Hawaii at the Pro Bowl as a defensive end. You know, you let Willie Buchanan go to the San Diego Chargers for, I think we could have paid him $20,000 more and he would have made it. And
look at John.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these players that we could have had the front office been committed to winning. All of a sudden you get Ron Wolf in there, you get Mike Holmgren in there, you get football people running the organization. They go, you know what? We're going to give everything we got to bring in Reggie White, the best defensive player. I mean, him and Lawrence Taylor are probably 1 and 2 all time. You know, you go out and you get a Sean Jones, you get lucky on a guy from Kiln, Mississippi, who just loved to play football. I mean, Brett enjoyed the game. You know, he just had a blast out there.
All right, we covered a lot of ground there. I'm pretty sure we covered literally from the time you were born until 1985, and that was just our first segment. So let's take a quick break.
Well, I was actually born in St. Louis.
Holy hell, we didn't get there yet.
Yeah,
All right,
no.
we'll get there.
That's a whole nother story.
Back with more. Paul Coffman, the greatest tight end in Packers history, hands down. We're back in a second here on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. J.A., if I said, let's have one more beer, how many beers does that typically in a responsible manner add up to? If I just said, let's just have one more.
Yeah, I don't. That's funny. I can't put a number on it, but I do know there's a difference between one more and then final. Right? That's always one. Final. All right, this is it. This is the last. Here's the final. So whatever it is more than one.
Typically more than one.
Right?
I got a buddy.
Greater than one.
Summertime is here. Softball has started. The Pink Flamingos are back on the diamond. It's going great. We're 1-2. Don't talk about it. So I got a buddy, though. We go to a little Mexican restaurant right down the road from the park almost every time after the game. And a guy we call Pork Chop had the tweets of all tweets. He said, I am currently the leader in the clubhouse for number of beers after one more. It's just a constant thing. There's just one more should never come out of our mouth. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Just have another one, maybe, in a responsible manner. The idea here, though, is that summer's here. And so whether you're having Miller Lights outside during softball, which I do every single Thursday night, or if you are just hanging out with friends somewhere outside in the summer, there's something about Miller Lite that actually tastes like beer, and it does taste even better when it's warm outside. Yeah.
So I will tell you this. So I was in Louisiana recently, Baton Rouge, for the SEC championships, and I got down there early on Wednesday, and I went to play golf. And I had a friend of mine hook me up, so I went to the U Club, which is nice. And I actually played, name drop, with a fellow named Mondo Duplantis. I don't know if you know Mondo, but he's the world record holder in the pole vault. Mm-hmm. Greatest pole vault ever.
That was my guess.
Currently gold medalist. Anyway, so and Mondo's like 23. So we're there and we're playing. And here's the problem when you play at someplace nice where they hook you up. They don't take cash, right? You got to put it on somebody's account. I don't have an account. So it's hot and I'm drinking water and it's great, but it gets a little slow. So for the last 8 or 9 holes, 7, 8 holes, because we got him after the turn, we play with another guy, Andrew. The first hole we played with him, he dunked 2 in the water and made a triple. And so he was bummed. And then he went birdie, got them all back.
Wow. Summer's here, right? Whether it's golf or softball, whatever it is, Miller Lite is better with friends in the summer, even though it tastes great and like beer in the winter too. All right, with a Miller Lite in your hand, summer does not just taste great. It tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer except on the golf course that J.A. was golfing on. Miller Lite, Miller time.
No, they sold it. Just
they sold it, sure.
J.A. could not access it.
Dumb. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. We are back, the Inside Wisconsin Show, between segments with Paul Coffman. Time for another top 5 list presented by Wisconsin's best agriculture program, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. UW-Platteville offers an affordable, top-rated program that prepares graduates to be leaders in the fields of agriculture and agribusiness, contributing to our state economy and making our communities even stronger. Find out more at uwplatt.edu. That was the last Deeper Roots episode. I was back on the farm down there in Elroy. Real quick story. I took a picture of the new Lisbon water tower when I was down there, and I sent it to Red Foreman. I sent it to our guy out in L.A. I said, hey, man, back home says hello. And he's like, oh, that warms my heart.
Oh,
so he was grateful for that. All right, I'm grateful that the Packers' schedule is out, man.
Love it.
So it made me think about all these away games.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we're going to Rum Runner. Rum Runner, it's a Packer bar out in Vegas. You'll see. I've got some ideas. But regardless, it has me thinking,
yes,
what are the best away Packer games, or maybe even broader, what is the best away NFL stadium that we got to hit? Maybe we can put it into a top 5 list. What do you think?
Okay. So where are you going?
All right.
Where do you want to go?
So I have been to not a whole lot of NFL stadiums across the country, but there are some that I was really blown away by. For instance, number 5, Seattle, right? If you can get out to Seattle and experience the 12th man, Russell Wilson was the quarterback, and they did this really incredible boom, boom, Wilson. Like, maybe you've never heard that, but it was really. What?
We won't hear it again.
No, not there. So Seattle's number 5. I really enjoyed that time in Seattle. I was out there actually watching Breno Giacomini play, who used to be a Packer. They won the Super Bowl that year. Anyway, number 4, I will say this, and it has nothing to do with our guy that just went there. I thought it's MetLife Stadium, I do believe, where the Jets and the Giants play.
Yep.
It was an interesting deal because there's a stadium literally in the middle of nowhere. It's a concrete jungle, and all of a sudden, poof, there's a stadium. And I think it's fascinating how 2 teams play at one stadium. Like, that would never fly at Lambeau Field. And I understand, like, it's just a quick brand out change, but at some level, there's a lot of responsibility there. But I was really grateful. What I liked the most, I think, was there were only so many tickets that were actually in the elements. There was a lot of overhang there, and obviously not like Lambeau, but it was pouring that day and we were under a roof. So I think it's cool. And of course, you do the whole New York City thing. That was cool. Okay. Number 3, Ford Field. I'm just really impressed. I know this isn't a big deal, but I was really impressed with how they did Ford Field. Downtown Detroit, the baseball stadium there, it's easy to get in, easy to get out, which you do not find very often. Indoors, best boy trip weekend of my life. We drove to Michigan on a Friday night. We woke up Saturday morning and went to the Badgers at Michigan. Had a blast, at the big house. Slept that night. Woke up the next morning and drove to Detroit for Packers Lions. It was incredible and the longest ride home of my life that Monday from Detroit back to Wisconsin.
Okay. Did they win? Because a lot of times they lose in Detroit a lot.
I couldn't tell you if they won or not.
Okay, good. That's fine.
Sorry.
Tells you where we are.
Here's number 2. I was blown away by this. Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills have an incredible atmosphere, and this was before they started jumping through tables.
Yeah.
The Packers were there last year. J.A., that's one of the loudest stadiums I've ever heard. I understand Kansas City is loud, but there is something crazy about how underground is it Ralph Wilson Stadium? Is that right?
It is. It's been rebranded. Ralph Wilson, the original owner, and now it's got some name on it finally, and they're trying to build. But it's there in Orchard Park. Yeah, Yeah.
That was really fun. I was really in. Granted, again, I was there watching a buddy play, but just it felt like Lambeau, right? I mean, Buffalo is out kind of in the middle of a neighborhood, right.
Yep.
And number 1, I've never been there, but I'm excited to go to Vegas. I really am. I mean, I understand. Like, here's the idea: this stadium is not far off the Strip. So the last time we were out there, we're like, oh, let's go and check out the stadium and get a tour. You can walk there from the Strip. It's not a great walk, but you can absolutely get there. So we're really excited. And again, hitting this spot. It's a Packer bar out in Vegas called Rum Runner. We went there, and there are T-shirts literally from bars that you would recognize in small Wisconsin towns that are hung up from the ceiling. So we're looking forward to that. That's the idea. Maybe we'll do I'll be there and you'll be where you are. Or maybe you get out.
When is that game? When is that game?
It's a Monday night game, October 9th.
Okay. Monday night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little Joe and Troy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Our guys.
That's cool.
We'll go
we're getting in. We're flying in on Friday, flying out on Tuesday.
I've seen the Vegas Stadium. I haven't been there, but I've seen it. And, whatever it is, the Death Star, the whole thing, the Eternal Flame. And it looks really cool and flashy. But I have a feeling like more people are going to Vegas, Las Vegas Raider games for Las Vegas than they are the Raiders part of that name.
That's fair.
So we'll see. By the way, you're completely wrong on Seattle. I don't care how nice it is between the onside kick and simultaneous possession. That place needs to just be imploded, just like they did with the Kingdom.
Yeah, that was bad.
Just like the Kingdom. There is too much bad juju there for that place to make any list of good things. So I get it. It's yours. I don't want to tell you you're wrong. It's like people's feelings. We don't want to tell you you're wrong. I'm just saying perhaps maybe you could reconsider number 5 on your list.
You don't want to tell me I'm wrong? Like
with anything. Not in
why?
this.
That's new.
Okay, you're screwed up. You're wrong.
Okay, got it. Thanks. I was going to say, why change now?
Seattle can't be on the list.
Got it. All right, back to Paul Coffman. We are back, the Inside Wisconsin show. Trevor, John, and Paul Coffman of the Green Bay Packers tight end Hall of Fame. You might as well just taught to every tight end and be like, give up. I would just stop now. You're never going to catch me. It is what it is. I hope you have a great season here. But anyway, you talked earlier about
go ahead, Trevor.
Monday Night Football games real quick. I wanted to cover that. There were at least 3 Monday Night Football games, Paul, in your career that have gone down as those in the top 10 Monday Night Football games in all of Packers history. Is there one that really sticks out to you? You're like, Trev, John, this was the night that my life came alive on Monday night.
Oh, obviously the Redskins. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I caught 6 passes for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half of the game. And what they did is we would go slot formation, which put James Lofton and John Jefferson on the same side. And then I was the tight end on the short side of the field. Well, they would come up and bump and run, those 2 guys, and they moved Mark Murphy, general manager of the Packers, who was the free safety for the Redskins. I guess I can call them the Redskins and not the Commanders. But they would move him over to back up those 2. It gave me half the field with their strong safety, Curtis Jordan. I mean, Lynn would look over at me and he'd go, hey, and my nickname's Hog. And he would look at me and he'd go, hey, Hoggy, you seeing what I'm seeing? I'm like, yeah, you know, and we just played catch the first half. They made an adjustment the second half, but you know, this is back in the day when you had the little recorders for your phone in your house. And, you know, I got home that night and, I mean, friends from all across the United States, you know, were just left messages on my, my little recorder. You know, it's like, you're going to the Pro Bowl. You know, that was awesome. You know, so that was the game, that Monday night game against the Redskins, you know, 48-47. And fortunately, Mark Mosley missed a field goal at the end, or they would have beat us 50-48.
Oh, wow.
But,
I was just going to say, so he's the MVP of the league.
Yeah.
And he's there. Where were you when he kicked it? Were you just holding your breath? Did you have your head in an ice bucket? What were you doing when he made
I was standing by Lynn Dickey, and when they got the ball, I think they had 37 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
And Lynn looks at me and he goes, they got too much time. And I'm like, no, I go, we got it. He goes, no, they got too much time. Sure enough, they get in position and, you know, he was a straight on kicker and, you know, fortunately for us, he missed it. And we're just like, yes. You know? I think it's just, you score 48 points. You think that's going to be enough.
So there was a great cartoon in the Green Bay News Chronicle the next morning. That used to be the morning paper, Trev, before the Press Gazette. They had and Mr. Leahy was the cartoonist. He was a local guy. And I say Mr. Leahy because I went to school with his kids. And I don't even know what Mr. Leahy's first name is because he was Mr. Leahy. And he does this great little thing. And he said, and the guy's sitting there, and it's Bart Starr, apparently. He's kind of looking, and he says, the only thing I can figure out is everybody in this side of the stadium exhaled at the same time everybody over here inhaled, and it pushed it down. But Mark, let me just tell you how great it is to hear somebody talk about this game, because I've worked with Joe Theismann. As much as Joe likes to talk, don't want to talk about that game.
Mark Murphy doesn't either.
And Mark May don't want to talk about that game at all. In fact, he curses Mark Mosley. And when I was in London, I visited with Mark Murphy just a little, and he didn't want to talk about the game. So none of those people, you're the first guy I've ever met that want to talk about the game. So I appreciate that somebody will tell their side of the story, because the people in Washington, they were really good, right? They were coming off. They had won the Super Bowl.
Either they won the Super Bowl that year, or they had won it the year before.
They won it in the strike.
Yeah.
So
there was one play. We're on the sideline. Bob Snelker, our offensive coordinator, goes, "Give me a fullback. Give me a fullback." And he was hoping that it was Gary Ellis. Well, it was a guy named Mike Mead from Penn State who, you know, he was on the chart a little bit. Well, Mead steps up there and he gives him the play. Well, it's a play to the fullback. And Mead runs out on the field and he's going, "No, not Mead, not Mead." And he's going, "No, no." They line up, they run the play. Dickey hits Mead in the flat. He turns up the sideline. All of a sudden, Snelker's going, "No, no, go, go, go." Mead goes down the sideline. Somebody dives at his feet. He actually jumps over the guy and goes into the end zone for a touchdown. Wow. You know, but,
an amazing game.
Yeah, it It was an incredible game. And the town did not shut down that night. I actually went downtown. There was a bar open that was just packed. And when I walked in, the bartender grabbed me and stuck me behind the bar. I was just like pouring beers and doing shots with people. And, only in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And, Tuesday was our day off. But most of Green Bay had to get up and go to work in the morning.
I was sitting in Graham Hall freshman year in Columbia watching that game on a screen about yay big when it comes through. We're talking about, because you brought him up a bunch. So between Bart and between Brett Favre coming, and then Aaron for that stretch, everybody talked, and I'm the one that says, listen, there were a ton of lean years with quarterbacks. There were some guys that just could not play the position. But Lynn Dickey was the exception. Talk about Lynn, because he could really, in terms of a guy that could just absolutely spin it, he was a great thrower of the football.
He was so accurate, and the deep ball. I mean, you look at some of the passes that he threw James Lofton, they're 50 yards down the field, and James doesn't break stride. For me, as linebackers would cover me over the middle. If that linebacker was on one shoulder, he would throw it to the other side. And boy, he was just so accurate. He was more mobile than what people thought, but he was so smart. He studied that playbook. He studied the other team. He knew tendencies. And, again, I would sit by him in meetings, and I just owe so much to Lynn Dickey for explaining things to me. And we're great friends to this day. I talk to him at least once a week. He and Jan Stenerud and I are flying down to Atlanta, Georgia on Monday, and David Whitehurst is picking us up, and we're going out playing golf for 3 days at it's Lake Oconee, a golf course called Cuskawilla. It's kind of an Indian name, and we're going to go down there and play golf for 3 days. So, Lynn is just a lifelong friend, and I love him to death, and I owe so much to him. And just, again, the accuracy that he had, and just the command on the field. There were times him and Greg Cook would get into arguments, in the huddle. I was kind of the mediator. I'd try to break them up. I'd go, look, we got to call the play. You two stop bitching at each other, and let's get the play called. But,
Greg Cook I think he was a guard. He was from Arkansas that was in there, and he once made a comment about he fell out of favor. Remember, he made some comment about everybody in Wisconsin or in Green Bay wearing bowling shirts, which he probably wasn't wrong. It just sometimes the truth hurts, and it gets you when you go through there. So Lynn's the quarterback there. In '82, you touched on it. You played the one playoff game that was there between the '72 division champs and the Holmgren thing. You had a bunch of 8-8 teams. How close were you guys to being really good?
Well, like I say, if some of those players that I mentioned that they let go, the Willie Buchanan, the Mike Butler, the Bruce Clark, there's 3 defensive players that would have helped us. People say, well, Dickey threw too many interceptions. Well, Bart told him, said, you got to take chances because we can't stop anybody. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel bad for, John Anderson, Mike Douglas, Mark Murphy, Johnny Gray, guys on defense that were, busting their butt all the time. And, it's like, boy, we don't really have any help up front, any big guys to keep people off of us. And so, they take a lot of heat. There were some great players there, but we were missing, some big guys up front that they could have had that would have made a huge difference.
So if the Lombardi era was before, and then the Holmgren era and everything thereafter, Paul, what would you call the era of Packers football that you played in?
It was a lot of fun. It was a dream come true for me. We had a great locker room. We had, some fun guys. We worked hard. Practices weren't like they are today. When you got to team period, it was pretty much live. You wouldn't tackle people to the ground, but up front. And I felt like I had to have that. I had to have a good week of practice to be ready for the game. And I think I would have trouble even making the team in today's NFL just because you can't go hard in practice. I mean, that was my thing. When everybody else was tired and hands on the knees, I was still going hard. And I remember, veteran players telling me during training camp, "Hey, Rook, lighten up." I'm like, man, I got one chance to make this team. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make the team. And I'm going to go full speed. So just get ready. I got in fights all the time in practice and stuff my first year. But
J.A., can you imagine being a Packer fan growing up when you did, right? And watching the teams that Paul played on and just happen to stumble into this golf course next week and those four are together? I'd be like, hey, this round is on. Actually, I'll just buy you guys whatever you want to drink the whole time. How about that?
You would not want to see me because I would wear you out. I did that to poor Johnny Rowland. Remember Johnny Rowland?
Oh yeah, Sky's, yeah.
Dan Devine bring him in to coach running backs when he first started because he had coached him at Missouri, and after his pro career was done, then he was Walter Payton's position coach with the Bears one time, and he randomly got paired with me in Otisauga, New York, at Leatherstocking Golf Course, which is by the Hall of Fame. And I said, Johnny, just so you know, I went to Mizzou and I grew up in Green Bay, and my favorite player was Walter Payton. And that poor bastard was saddled with me for 5 hours.
Wow.
And I was really mad because they cut a fullback for Walter before Matt Suey by the name of Roland Harper.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, from Louisiana Tech. And I said, I'm still mad at you for cutting. And he's like, who would we have cut? And I proceeded to name like 20 guys. And he's like, this is going to be the longest day of golf I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen if that ever happens to when you guys go down there. Hey, linebacker.
Well, we have something in common. My favorite player is Walter Payton.
Hey.
I mean,
What are you going to do?
we would watch the Bears offense play Detroit. We would watch the Bears offense play Minnesota and Tampa Bay. To watch Walter when he didn't have the ball was so impressive. I mean, he was stonewalling blitzing linebackers. He was hustling downfield. And then I got to play with him in the Pro Bowl over in Hawaii when the Pro Bowl was actually a real game.
Yep.
Because the winners got 10,000 and the losers got 5. So we were playing our asses off for that extra 5,000. And Walter is his nickname, Sweetness. I mean, he is just the nicest guy, but he's the most fierce competitor I've ever been around.
So let's combine those. He was stonewalling blitzers. You said you got covered by linebackers, but you're on the line. At some point, you probably had to block some of those SOBs, and they have bad intentions, whether it's them or defensive ends. Like, who'd you run up against that you just would like, I would like to maybe think my career choice today?
There's one guy, Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
I used to have to block LT.
Well, you're not the only guy then.
I mean, he is the guy that he never took during the course of a game. My big thing was I'm going full speed every play because I got to. I mean, I never played across from somebody that I was bigger, stronger than and faster than. I mean, you look at LeBron James, he plays against people he's bigger, stronger, and faster than. Reggie White played across from people that he was bigger, stronger. And I never played across from somebody. But I expected at some point they would dog it. They would take a play off. They would get tired. They would, get nicked up. Lawrence Taylor never took a play off. Not one. Full speed all the time, like a bunch of crazed dogs.
Right.
It's, the thing when him and Mickey Schuler got into it. But yeah, he was tough. A guy named Hugh Green that played for Tampa.
I love
Pitt. He was a beast. He would headbutt you right off the line, and I mean, it would just stun you. There were just so many, guys. Obviously, are great athletes, and I just feel blessed to have had the opportunity to play against them.
All right, let's wrap it up. We're going to be back in just a minute with Paul Coffman of the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, and so much more. Back for the lightning round in just a bit. The Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. So summer is here, of course. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but the idea now is that you can bust out things on the patio that you maybe couldn't use in the winter. Our favorite cooking utensil is the Blackstone out on the patio. Do you have one of these things, that flat top griddle? No?
Don't have that, and I don't have a big green egg. I just have a really nice, grill out back.
So these flat top Blackstone things can cook literally the best breakfast you ever had. I made a list over here. We're talking festival foods. If you were to go there, let's say you didn't take mom out for brunch, but you wanted to make brunch at home. What are the must-haves for breakfast at home from festival foods on the flat top griddle? What do you got to have?
Just listen. And in that case, I just give me eggs, and then some sort of a meat, but a meat that is not just your bacon or sausage. If I am brunch, right, I need some sort of a beef or a pork option, maybe even a ham if you want to do that.
Sure.
Use more Easter brunchish, but stuff like that. I don't know. Can you make a pancake on your cooktop griddle or whatever? I'm sure you could do that. And then you need some sort of potato.
Oh, that didn't make my list.
Like, I'm not a hash brown guy, but I love an American fry, right? You boil it up and then chop it up and then
chunk up potatoes. So
I like the American fry. So I'd have to have those kind of things.
If you don't grab a donut from Festival Foods when you're in there, did you know? Here's a little Sports Center. Did you know?
Okay.
Festival Foods twice bakes donuts, literally twice a day. You walk in there. We're talking breakfast, right? Into Festival Foods. The first thing you smell is donuts. And it's on purpose. Like, they somehow get the air from over there into the thing right when you walk in. Yeah, big fan of their donuts.
I had a buddy who worked at Starbucks, or should I say a coffee franchise that was based in Seattle.
Kenny Mayne will be happy.
But they apparently, when they started making some breakfast things, they had to solve the problem that when you came in, you kind of smelled that, and they wanted the aroma of the coffee. So sometimes I think that's why I microwave them. I don't know exactly what it was, but their big problem was when you walked through the door, they wanted you to smell the coffee. And if you came in and smelled a breakfast sandwich, that was kind of the thing. So, meanwhile, you walk in, you smell a donut, you feel like this is, I can stay a while. Yeah. I can loiter here.
And it's always where you end up when you walk past there. Anyway, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they have you covered at Festival Foods. Go to festfoods.com right now. Make your shopping list. And maybe do breakfast on Sunday morning on the blacktop, just the Blackstone, the black griddle, just have breakfast from Festival Foods,
with potatoes.
Back for segment 3 with Paul Coffman, Trevor John, and the greatest tight end to ever play for the Green Bay Packers. All right, 2 for me. Listen, Paul. There's a backstory here. Let me just tell you real quick. I screwed up and didn't think that Joe Thomas was the best Badger to ever play. You're the best tight end. I'm not eating crap for the rest of this season. So I'm repetitive here so that it's just out there every single chance I get.
Thank you.
All right, 2 for me. Here we go. Here's my first one. Quick story. I was in a local pub here in Deep Pier, and I was sitting now. John mentioned it earlier. I was born in '83, so I didn't get to watch you guys play in the late '70s, early '80s. I was sitting in a bar here in Deep Pier next to Johnny Gray. Never watched him play. Didn't know what position he played. He's put on a few LBs. And so I asked him, hey, did you play linebacker? And he goes, man, a guy puts on a few pounds and now he's a linebacker. I messed up. You mentioned it right at the beginning when we came off the top that people sometimes recognize you and sometimes they don't. That was a great story when you're like, who's the Packers' best tight end? So what is it like now when you come back for alumni stuff in Green Bay and just have these conversations?
No, it's fun. My wife tells me, she goes, well, you're an ambassador for the Packers. And I'll see people here in Kansas City that have Packer hats on or Packer shirt. I say, are you from Wisconsin? And someone will say, yeah. And where? I say, Wausau. Oh, really? I go to Wausau every year for the Pink Ribbon Golf Tournament, raises money for single women with cancer in the community. They go, well, why do you do that? I said, well, I actually used to play for the Packers. And they'll look at me and same thing. They'll go, were you a defensive back? I go, no, I was a tight end. I mean, the most I ever weighed was probably 225. I weigh about 195 now. But, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have gone up to somebody and say, hey, I used to play for the Packers. It almost seemed like bragging. But now, like my wife said, you're an ambassador. People want to hear these stories. They want to hear about Bart Starr. They want to hear about Lynn Dickey. Do you know Brett Favre? What was it like to play against Lawrence Taylor? How did you handle the cold? And, I have some pictures on my phone of games that we played. There was actually one, it was a fold out in Sports Illustrated, and the caption in the corner is fourth quarter, fourth down, 4 below. How does it feel? And it's got a picture of our huddle, me, number 82 in the back, Lynn squatted down in the front, all the guys around the huddle. But, so I'll show them that picture and they say, well, how did you do that? I said, well, you didn't have a choice. I mean, you can't say, Coach, it's really too cold. I think maybe I ought to sit this one out. You just go out there and do your job. But, there's people, out tarring highways when it's 100 degrees. There's guys fixing roofs when it's 20 below. I mean, you do your job, you do what it takes. And, I tell people, I do motivational speaking and I say, football's like life. Sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes you lose. I go, it's a lot like life. How do you overcome these things? And, each week you got to just say, okay, I'm going to look at my mistakes. I'm going to look at my successes. I'm going to build for the next game and go on. And then after the season, you rest up a little bit and you come back and how can we be better this year? And, it's a lot like life.
Well, my next question sucks now because I was going to ask you how much you hate purple. But that's not very motivating.
Well, Kansas State is purple.
Damn it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was referencing the Vikings. Even though you wore it, I was kind of hoping you still hate purple, but then there's that K-State thing. Hey, John, lightning round, go.
Yeah, Trev, come on. Purple, know your audience here.
I'm colorblind.
Well, first off,
I'm colorblind. I had no idea.
Some of my speed round questions, and these I'm just going to rapid fire them, and you can come back just as quick, Paul, but some of them have already been answered. Like, I want to know if the 5-pound weight in the jock strap was a myth or a real thing. So I know the answer.
It's a real thing.
I know the answer to that one now. I was going to ask you a little motivational thing, but you've kind of touched on that, so that's good. I'll ask you this one. Let's start with this one. Better snow game, Monday night in Denver or the December 1st game after Thanksgiving in Lambeau that you touched on against the Buccaneers?
Yeah, the Buccaneer game, because we won that one, obviously. And actually, the game in Denver, once we got on the plane, we couldn't take off. And so we had to change planes. I don't know what the deal was, but, so we were stuck in Denver for a long time. And I think we emptied the bar. We had to get off the plane, go back in the bar and sit there, before we got back. So it was a miserable trip the whole way around.
Kids, if you haven't figured that one out, and Trevor too, just go back and you can 1984, just Google that Monday night against the Broncos. That's fine. Who was the best 82 before you were there?
Lionel Aldridge.
Correct. The Packers had 2 first-round draft picks in 1978. Can you name them?
James Lofton and John Anderson.
There you go.
They had 2 in 77, too. Can you name them?
Mike Butler and Ezra Johnson.
You got it.
Jeez.
How about that, Trevor?
That was amazing. That was amazing.
2 defensive ends, 2 really good guys. Ezra had a couple of good years where he was in there.
Well, see, Ezra should have been used like Lawrence Taylor. Ezra ran a 4.340. And Hog Hanna, who played under Lombardi, he was big on what they call 2 gap. It's like you engage the tackle and you got this gap and that gap. If the ball goes either way. Ezra was a guy you needed to line him up wide and say, sick him, go, run. So I felt bad for Ezra because, they tried to put weight on him and make him a 2-gap type defensive end when he should have been a Lawrence Taylor standing up on the outside and just running to the quarterback.
Ezra Johnson one time, Trev, he tracked down Haven Moses from behind against the Broncos, and Haven Moses was their best wide receiver, and he ran him down. And this was a dude that had a 20-yard head start, and it was a defensive end that took him down. How do you feel about the Kansas Jayhawks?
Well, people ask me, from K-State, they say, why did you let your son go to Missouri? I said, that way I could hate KU from both sides of the state.
Wow.
Trevor, how good is that? That might be the best
Wow.
answer we've ever had. Even if he didn't catch passes, and this is my track background, how much fun was it just to watch James Lofton run?
Oh, unbelievable. We 1 year we had to run quarters. We had to run 4 quarters when we reported to camp. And the wide receivers had to get them, I think it was 70 seconds, which that's a pretty good clip.
Right.
Tight ends and linebackers, we had to get them in 75. D-line stuff were like in the 80s. Well, James would run his first 3 in about 60. And then the last one, it was just we had 90-second rest in between, 4 quarters,
right.
90-second rest. James would run his last one. I believe he actually broke 50 one time. I mean, like in 49. Yeah. I mean, and if you're a track guy and you know what a quarter mile is or 400 meter, I mean, it's a gut check. You can't show up and bluff your way like you're in shape. If you hadn't, you might be able to run 1 or 2 quarters and make your time. But if you hadn't been doing them, you can't bluff it.
Former NCAA long jump champ. Tell me a story that we don't know about Larry McCarron. It's not going to get him in trouble. We don't want to get him in fire. We don't want to cause any ruckus.
But close.
Give me a McCarron story.
Well, Larry told this story on himself that one year he went up to some small town and they were having some kind of run. And so all these guys were doing this run. I don't know if it was a 5K or, a 2K or what it was. Well, Larry's up speaking to the group of people. And all of a sudden the guy gets up and goes, "Hey, everybody, Bob's going to break the record. Let's come over here and watch." And he goes, all of a sudden the whole crowd runs over to the end of the race to watch Bob finish right in the middle of his speech. But, Larry probably was, I would say, was the hardest worker on the team. Like, I would look at James Lofton and his smoothness and the way he ran routes. I would look at Larry McCarron and the way he worked and how tough he was. He actually had a broken foot one time and played the game. He had a ruptured hernia one time and actually wore like a rubber underwear to hold his guts in and played the season. And then right after the season, had it operated on. So I look at Larry, his work ethic and his toughness, and it's like, that's my living example. That's the guy that I want to be like when it comes to toughness. And, James, as far as just talent and smartness and smoothness, but Larry was the tough guy.
I have 2 more. One, if you played in today's game, would you do the Lambeau leap?
I couldn't get up that high. I would just I'd hit that mat and just kind of melt down the side, unless somebody would grab me back of my helmet and pull me up there or something.
Good. Gotta know your limitations. Finally, what is it like when you're a dad and the quarterback that you used to room with, David Whitehurst, and his son throws a pass in the NFL to your son when Charlie threw one to Chase? That had to be a hell of a moment.
That was awesome. I mean, when we went down to Tennessee to watch them play, somebody took the football card of me and David, and then a picture of Chase and Charlie, and the caption in the middle is Whitehurst to Coffman, then and now. Wow. Mm-hmm. So, Charlie threw to Chase. We think that might be the only time in NFL history that it happened, with the Mannings and, the Winslows and, it could have, but not to my knowledge. But that's a great trivia question there.
It's a heck of a thing. And
and my wife and his wife Beth are good friends. But quick story about my wife: we start dating, and the Lombardi Golf Tournament is in Milwaukee.
Yep.
So Amy, who's my girlfriend at the time, my wife then, or now, she flies up with me. Bob Hope is there. Leslie Nielsen is there. Neil Armstrong, who walked on the moon, is there. There's people from the Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Bulls, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Milwaukee Brewers. There's soap opera stars. I mean, this is a big deal. We get up on the first tee. My wife's looking around, or my girlfriend at the time, she goes, "Who's the celebrity in our group?" I said, "It's me." Her jaw was like, she wanted a soap opera star to ride around with us and play golf. So we get married. We're up in Lambeau Field. I have an incredible game. I catch 5 passes. I score a touchdown. So I'm thinking I've impressed my new wife, and I go into the room where the wives and girlfriends are waiting. And I said, "Did you see that touchdown pass I caught?" She goes, "No, but you should have met the people I sat next to." She goes, "They're from Chicago. They got a cottage up in Door County, and they come up to every game, and they're just the nicest people." I'm thinking, what about me? I'm kind of like the man up here. So she keeps me humble. She used to always tell our kids, sports is what you do. It's not who you are. Don't draw all your acceptance and significance in life from the fact that you're an athlete. Your character is much more important than that.
Well, that is true to the end, and I try to preach that to my kids, even when they were just playing regular, high school athletics. When they went through that, it's a great thing, but that career ends at some point, and you got a long way to live after that gets done. So, hey, everybody that grows up in an era has their guys, and so Willie Buchanan will always be my number 28, and 42 will always be John Brockington, and 82 will always be Paul Coffman. I don't care if Christian Watkins wants to switch his number this year or not from number 9. And so this has been a treat for me. Thanks so much for making time. Appreciate your son getting in, helping us get in contact and using some Missouri roots to get the Green Bay thing together. You've been fantastic and wildly entertaining, and thank you so much. and thanks for what you did in some lean years, because you were certainly a bright spot. Thank you, Paul Coffman.
Well, thank you. And, one more story. David Whitehurst and I were at Mike McCarthy's golf tournament in Madison. And we were up at the bar, and a lady comes up and says, "Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming up here." David goes, "At home, we're fathers, we're husbands, we're businessmen, we have responsibility. But when we come to Wisconsin, we get to be Green Bay Packers again. So thank you." So I just want to thank you guys for having me on. Thank the state of Wisconsin. Like I say, it was the perfect place for me, and love the people up there. We do golf tournaments, we do ice fishing tournaments, we we do anything that they'll bring us up for, where we can drink beer and tell football stories. It's awesome.
That's fantastic.
See you this weekend.
Yeah.
Let's do that. J.A., it's the start of a good joke. Pepper Burris, Gorman Thomas, and Paul Coffman walk into a bar.
See, and I was just going to say, he's kind of like Gorman. Like, I think he's ripe for just like, if he's got more time, I think Paul has more things that we could drill down into and listen to, for sure.
I texted you at the very beginning of that show and said, 1 question, 73 sound bites. He was incredible. Those stories only come from guys like Paul Coffman. Man. Hey, thank you for allowing me to ride your coattails on that. I think I held my own, but 78 to 85 was not my prime Packer fan season. I'll tell you that.
That's all right. But a lot of people it was. A lot of folks, when you have very few bright spots, those tend to glow even brighter than some that we might recognize today. So,
and you are so right.
We've drafted 2 tight ends, so now they know what to live up to.
Yeah, that's true.
Go be this guy, who was great.
Probably my favorite story that he told was he was speaking with someone and said, "What Packer did this or that?" And he's like, "Me. That was me."
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
All
my
right,
buddies would know that, by the way.
Yeah, fair.
I don't know if yours would, but my guys, they would totally know that.
They would totally know that. All right. Well, what started in 78 was Paul Coffman and apparently a whole bunch of John, Wisconsin stories, because that is the era, man, that all of these stories come from. What's the latest from the childhood of John Anderson?
So this is, we're airing here in graduation season. So I thought maybe I'd tell the quick story that nearly almost derailed my graduation from Green Bay Southwest High School, class of 83, that I'm very proud of. And so a buddy of mine, I think I can say it, Paul Schrader. Paul was great. We knew each other forever. Paul was a bass player, went on after graduation, went to Madison for a while. I'm not sure he made it through there, and then went to the Army, went to the service, and played in a band like Toad the Wet Sprocket or something. He was a bass player. Anyway. So, yeah, these are all true things. So Paul and I don't know where we saw it or where we got the idea of it, to do kind of a poor man's high school Mad magazine kind of little newsletter that we could do. And so we got together and we kind of wrote a lot of content and drew little cartoons and made fake interviews and did the whole thing. Well, it turned out it wasn't more mad. It got kind of almost beyond PG-13. There were words that were probably not great, not offensive, just kind of blue language. We took shots at the school superintendent. We took shots at the principal, the vice principal. It was not a smart idea. And it was a folded together, like you had this, right? And it was folded together and it was probably, I don't know, 7-8 pages. So you fold it and it was 16 and it was like that. And now these are days when you didn't have good printers. You couldn't just go and fake it in a school printer room. So, because it's 83. So we went over to like Candid Camera and they printed it out for us and they stapled it and bound it all up and it was great. And so the first time we sent it out, we kind of just on the low key sent it to people. It was 25 cents. But we didn't really sell it. People wanted it. So we did it and it went around. It was kind of funny and people thought that was humorous and we were protected at the time. No one said anything. There was no names attached to it. But this is where you're dumb. We shouldn't have taken credit. We're like, yeah, we just found these, in the choir room. Anyway, so the first went over so well, we thought, well, perhaps we can get out another episode, another edition. So we did that again, and it was very much similar kind of content, and it was again bold in its material, in its language. And it was stupid is what it was. The only thing that was really clever in the second issue is we had originally the price was 25 cents, right? And that was up here. And so for the second issue, we put the 25 cents here and then we put new lower price because it felt the same, but it was lower on the page. Okay, so this is the kind of stupid people you're dealing with. This we thought was funny. Get it, new lower price. So this time we were selling, and it went fairly aggressively, and then one of them ended up in a teacher's where you turn in your homework basket on their desk. Our calc teacher Bonk. So now he started. We've had several Bonk mentions here. So he starts going through, and he doesn't know what this is. What is this? Where did he get this? And we're just now. Paul was in the class. I'm just dead silent. I'm done. Well, lo and behold, they track it back to us. They haul Paul and I into the office. And they are, what is this? This is terrible. I wasn't smart enough at that time to plead like First Amendment rights and free speech or anything. I just know we were terrified in there. And so they give us a saying and they say, here's the deal. You're going to need to go home and talk to your parents about this, then report back to us and bring us all the copies. Well, luckily we didn't have a ton of copies left. And why didn't just bootleg a couple of them and keep them? Because they didn't have a calendar. So I would have had them, but I was so petrified because they were threatening to throw us out of school. Now, if you don't do this, you're getting expelled. It was not a great thing. So Paul is in tears because he knows he's going to get killed. I'm not in tears because I know that to waste them there is going to be when I need them at home. So I give a copy to my dad and tell him what this is. And he's like, what is this? This is terrible. Where did you get this? And I'm like, I made it. which then is Arch's son. So we got to go through all this. So now we get dragged in, and we bring the extra copies, and they scare the ever-living crap out of us that they are now going to deliberate. And since we took a shot at the then superintendent, he's going to get involved. I don't know if he did. This is, again, scary. And so we leave there with our parents, and it's like, let's hope you get to walk. That's,
Wow.
You have really stepped in it. So they take a few days. Now they bring us back in. And like I said, I don't think, because Paul and I had never really been in any trouble of any sort at all, and so they say, okay, here's the deal. You guys have royally screwed up, but your records are pretty good. And as long as we have the rest of these and you apologize to all the people that were involved here, you're good.
Good.
So we did all that, letter to the superintendent, did all that stuff. And then in what is sort of a strange irony is after that, I went home and, just in between, I had a track meet. They let me run, which was good. So I went home and I just, kind of thanked my lucky stars and then got dressed and went to the National Honor Society banquet.
Oh, jeez. Ribbon and all.
So anyway, so I did graduate. It was all fine. It was at the Brown County Arena. It was great. The old, Veterans Memorial Arena. But yeah, came really close. And I don't know that I've ever been more terrified over anything in my life, school related. Like I've had bad tests. I'm like, crap, that sucks. I'm going to have a horrible grade or something like that. But it's different to when you think, oh my God, I'm going to get thrown out of school.
Yeah, that word expulsion is not a joke. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but we made it. And so congratulations to all the kids in the Green Bay area, at Southwest and all the Green Bay areas. Congratulations to all the seniors in the state of Wisconsin. By the way, I'm really happy for all these kids last year as well. All the kids are actually having graduations, for all the ones that the 2020 is still it's fairly fresh to me for those kids that didn't get to graduate. So I know we're past some of that, but still, I'm not sure I'll ever take that for granted for the kids in 21 and 22 and 23 and all those things. So don't try to do a bootleg newspaper. If you do, try to keep it clean. 3, do remember you probably could use First Amendment things as a fallback, just in case. Yeah, you could have then too. I just was too terrified. I'm just trying to give some kids some checklists if they're in this business. But mostly just, try to keep your nose clean, graduate. And feel free though, if you do use it, just remember new lower price. New lower price.
What's cool about that, JA, is that's what put you on the map. You said on Sports Center, something happened at the Brown County Arena, and you said that was 8 feet from where I got my high school diploma. And then all of a sudden, whoa, he's from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was the first time, and because it's a common name, So, and I had, I'd been gone for a while between college and working in Oklahoma and Arizona, and I was there. And then, Warren Gerds, he was kind of the music and artsy critic and stuff, called me and said, wait, I forget who it was. I don't think it was Tony Bennett that made the shot, but somebody did during the Horizon Tournament League or the Summit or whatever they were in at that point. And I popped it off. And as I said to him, I appreciate he was nicer to me in that article than he was in my performance of as we were in, what was the play we were in? Bye Bye Birdie. Bring Back Birdie. We were in the sequel, which was not as great. I was Little Al in Bring Back Birdie. And I think, I think I got a line, and I don't know that it was a wooden performance, but it was not, it was not like must see. Yeah.
2 stars.
Oh, wow.
All good, man. Well, the stories continue. We'll pick it up where we left off in a few weeks, right here on the Inside Wisconsin show. For John, I am Trevor. We will see you next time, Wisconsin, as you were. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, Provea Health, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.